My wife ignored me for 7 days. Then my ex messaged me and everything fell apart in 7 minutes. Hey Reddit, long-time lurker here, first-time poster. I'm using a throwaway account for obvious reasons, but I really need to get this off my chest. Buckle up because this is going to be long. My name's Mike. I'm 34, work as a network engineer, and I make about $115,000 a year. Not billionaire money, but it's always been enough for me. Before Jessica came into the picture, I had a solid life. I lived in a decent apartment, drove a dependable Honda, and had built up a respectable amount in savings. I lived within my means thanks to how my parents raised me. Life was simple, peaceful. Then came Jessica, 31, a social media consultant who made maybe $30,000 a year on a good run. I met her at a BBQ hosted by my buddy Dave about 4 years ago. She looked like she belonged on the cover of a magazine, completely out of my league, or so I thought. 8 months later, we were married. The wedding, a small financial disaster for me, cost about $35,000. Her parents promised to help, but never gave a cent. Red flag number 1. I ignored it like an idiot. Most of my savings went into that wedding. She wanted the dream version, $5,000 dress, exotic flowers, that wilted the next day, every Instagrammable detail. Red flag number 2 came fast. On our honeymoon in Maui, Jessica maxed out 2 of my credit cards, shopping and spa treatments. I brought it up. Her response: "We're married now. What's yours is mine." Funny how that only seemed to work one way. Fast forward 3 years, and our lifestyle had completely changed. Scratch that it evolved to fit Jessica's definition of luxury. We moved from my affordable apartment to a high-end neighborhood that pushed my budget to its breaking point. She drove a leased BMW X5. I still had my Honda. Our closets told the story better than I ever could, hers packed with designer brands and accessories still in boxes. Mine filled with outlet store basics. This whole mess really started last Tuesday, right after dinner. Nothing fancy, just some takeout pasta I grabbed after dealing with a 12-hour shift handling a server crash. We ate in near silence, which wasn't unusual. I figured she was tired. But then, out of nowhere, she stood up, dumped her plate in the sink, and slammed the bedroom door shut. And that was it. The beginning of 7 straight days of being completely ignored. This wasn't just passive-aggressive cold shoulder behavior. No. This was warfare. Every good morning I offered met with her turning her back. Any question I asked was answered with nothing but the sound of her walking away. I checked her social media, still active, full of selfies with captions like, "Living my best life." I even called her friend Tiffany. "She seems fine," Tiffany said. I reached out to her mom, too, and all I got was a dismissive, "You know how she gets sometimes," with this knowing tone that made my blood boil. That's when I realized this wasn't a communication breakdown. It was a power play. She wanted me to squirm, to obsess over what I might have done wrong. Was it because I worked late? Didn't notice the new $400 throw pillows she bought without telling me? With Jessica, the possibilities were endless. This wasn't the first time either. Every 2 months or so, she'd come up with some reason to punish me with silence until I cracked, apologized, bought her something, and made it up to her. But 7 days. This was a new record. By day 3, I stopped trying. The humiliation of being rejected at every turn started to eat away at me. I cooked for myself. I slept in the guest room, which, by the way, turned out to be a lot more comfortable than I remembered. I went about my life as if I lived alone. The silence started to feel like this unwanted third roommate, growing louder every day. And my patience. It was running out. One morning, while I was getting dressed for work, I noticed her watching me from the kitchen doorway, just standing there silent. Our eyes met for a split second, before she looked away, but not before I caught something in her face: satisfaction. She was enjoying this, testing how far she could push me. Later that day, Dave texted, "We still good for our weekly gaming night?" I hadn't told anyone what was going on. Too embarrassing, really. I mean, what was I supposed to say? My wife's pretending I don't exist. Dave and I have been friends since high school. He's never been a big fan of Jessica. She's using you, man. He'd warned me before. I always brushed it off. But this time his words lingered. I responded, "How'd you know something's up? You've been online gaming till 2 a.m. every night this week. That only happens when you're avoiding something. Also, no recent pics of you two on her feed. Just her shopping." I called him and finally unloaded everything. The silence, the confusion, the emotional strain. "Dude," he said, "that's abuse. Straight up psychological abuse." I tried to downplay it. "Come on, she's not hitting me." "Mike, emotional abuse is still abuse," Dave insisted. "My sister went through this with her ex. It's all about control, making you feel like you're walking on eggshells." That hit hard. That was exactly what I'd been feeling for years. Then Dave said something that shook me. "I've been tracking some stuff. Patterns in her behavior. The financial drain. You know I work in risk assessment. It's literally my job to document problematic patterns. And bro, your marriage is lighting up every red flag in my playbook." That evening I noticed a stack of Nordstrom bags in the hallway. 4 of them. I checked our joint account. She'd dropped $1 and $200 that day while giving me the silent treatment. That's when I got really pissed. She'd quit her social media gig 6 months ago to find herself, which apparently meant finding her way to the mall. Meanwhile, I was working 50-plus hours a week to support her lifestyle. That night, I sat in the guest room with our financial statements spread out in front of me. The numbers were damning. Jessica had spent nearly $43,000 in the past year on clothes, makeup, spa visits, and home decor. That was over a third of my after-tax income. And what did I have to show for it? A house full of stuff I didn't care about, dwindling savings, and a wife who hadn't spoken a single word to me in days. Scrolling through my contacts, I saw a name that made me pause. Samantha. We'd grown up together, even dated in college. Life took us in different directions, but she'd always stayed in the back of my mind. She became a pediatric nurse, always had that warm, nurturing kind of energy. I remembered her laugh, genuine, contagious. Jessica met her once at a company party and hated her immediately. "Stay away from that charity case," she'd sneered on the ride home. "Did you see her shoes? Probably from Target." And like a good husband trying to keep the peace, I let that friendship go. But there she was in my messages, a recent one I hadn't replied to. She'd passed through town for a conference and wanted to grab coffee. I'd declined, too afraid of Jessica's reaction. But now, after 6 days of silence, something shifted. That morning I overheard Jessica on the phone with Tiffany. She was whispering, but not quiet enough. "He's still trying to figure out what he did wrong," she giggled. "It's hilarious. I'll probably make him take me to Cancun to make up for it." I froze. She was laughing about torturing me. It was like a fog lifted. I finally saw it for what it was, every silent treatment, every unnecessary apology, every expensive makeup gift. It wasn't about me messing up. It was about control, extraction, power. That afternoon during lunch, I called a lawyer. Just a consultation, I told myself. "Washington's an equitable distribution state," the lawyer said. "Assets divided fairly, not equally." He told me to document everything, spending, text messages, financial discussions. If I could show a pattern of exploitation, it would help my case. That night, I stared at Samantha's old message. I typed, "Still in town for that conference, I'd love to catch up tomorrow night." The moment I hit send, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Control. And it felt good. The response from Samantha came faster than I expected. "Hey Mike. Yes, still in town until Sunday. Thought you'd never ask. The Craftsman at 8. They have great mocktails." I stared at her message, grinning like an idiot. That smile felt foreign after a week of walking through fog. My house was still dead quiet, my wife still pretending I didn't exist, but something inside me had clicked. Jessica wanted silence. Fine, she'd get it. but this time on my terms. Later that evening, Dave called. I filled him in on my plan, just coffee, nothing more. I wasn't trying to start anything. Not romantically, anyway. Yeah, Dave said, not saying anything. But listen, while you're out, I could swing by and drop off that headset you asked about. Maybe even hang out in the guest house. You know, just in case anything weird happens. I hesitated, but he had a point. Having a witness someone objective could come in handy. Garage code is still the same, I said. Cool, he replied. Oh, and check your email. I sent you something. That email hit harder than expected. Dave had been collecting screenshots of conversations between Jessica and himself, texts she'd sent him over the past year. Messages where she mocked my pathetic salary, bragged about how easily she could manipulate me, even flirted a little just to test the waters. Dave had played along to see how far she'd go. Pretty far, it turned out. There was even one where she joked about how she could make me beg with just one silent dinner and a pout. And she wasn't wrong. That had worked before, not anymore. That night I barely slept. My brain was running marathons through the financial statements I'd dug up, the texts I'd read, the upcoming meetup with Samantha. The next morning, I woke up strangely energized. It was day 7 of the silent treatment. But instead of dragging myself out of bed like usual, I took my time. I shaved, took a longer than usual shower, wore the cologne Jessica said was too strong, and replaced with some generic stuff that never felt like me. I even ironed my shirt, one of the few nice ones she hadn't donated during a closet purge. I felt human again. Before I left for work, I did something I should have done months ago. I logged into our joint account and transferred $25,000, half of what remained, into my personal account. Just a precaution. It was all legally mine anyway, but I wasn't about to risk letting Jessica burn through the rest before I could act. That money represented more than cash. It was my safety net, my exit. Work that day felt different, easier. I was more focused, more present. My boss even pulled me aside. You seem lighter today. Personal fog lifting, I told him. Around midday, I got a text from HR. The Seattle position I'd applied for months ago, one that Jessica had insisted I decline, was mine if I wanted it. $30,000 salary bump. Better title. Stock options. Jessica had dismissed it back then. Seattle's depressing, and it's barely a raise. What she didn't know was those stock options had just vested. Estimated value, over $200,000. Let me confirm tomorrow, I told HR. Meanwhile, Samantha and I were messaging like no time had passed. She was witty, warm, and curious. Everything Jessica hadn't been in years. We reminisced about college, laughed about our old favorite pizza spot, and flirted just enough to stay on that edge between safe and dangerous. I told her I'd see her at 8. When I got home, Jessica was cooking something. For herself. Still no acknowledgement of me. Still the Cold War. It was theatrical at this point. I walked past her without a word and headed to the bedroom to change. I heard her footsteps outside the door she was watching. Curious, maybe even suspicious. Usually by day 7 I'd have broken by now. Apologized for something I didn't understand. Bought her flowers or a necklace or a sorry I exist spa day. Not this time. I laid my phone on the bed screen up. A message from Samantha popped up. A selfie. Nothing extravagant, just her in a black dress at the restaurant smiling. She looked incredible. The kind of beautiful that doesn't need filters or brands. The message read, "Got here early to grab a good spot. Can't wait to see you like old times." When I turned around, Jessica was in the doorway, arms crossed, wearing a $600 loungewear set she couldn't live without. Still silent. But now her expression had changed. Not cold, confused, worried. "Don't wait up," I said, brushing past her, my cologne trailing in the air like a signature. She didn't say a word. At the restaurant, Samantha stood up when she saw me. Her smile was real warm and entirely unforced. "You look good," she said. "So do you," I replied. I almost forgot how easy this used to feel. We talked for 2 hours, about her job as a pediatric nurse, the small apartment she loved, her dreams of opening a wellness clinic. She didn't mention brands once, didn't ask what I drove. She asked about me, my goals, my happiness. When she asked how things were with Jessica, I didn't sugarcoat it. I told her everything, the silence, the spending, the control. Samantha shook her head. "Mike, that's not marriage. That's a hostage situation." She wasn't wrong. Then my phone buzzed. Jessica. For the first time in a week. Messages started flooding in. "Where are you? Who are you with? Why aren't you answering? I need you to take me shopping tomorrow. I need new boots." No apology. No acknowledgement. Just another demand. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. Then, in a move I never thought I'd make, I took a selfie with Samantha. Just a friendly one, me with my arm around her shoulder, both of us smiling. I posted it to Instagram. Caption: "Reconnecting with old friends reminds you what you've been missing." Jessica follows my account religiously. Samantha raised an eyebrow. "Everything okay?" "Better than okay," I said. "But I think it's time we take this conversation somewhere else." She gave me a look. "Mike, if this is about revenge, I'm not interested. I'm not your pawn. It's not that I said serious now. I just need you to see it. I need someone to witness what I've been living with. Someone who knew me before." She studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Okay. But this is about clarity, not payback." "Promise," I said. And meant it. As we pulled into the driveway, all the lights were on. Jessica's shadow moved past the living room curtains. I checked my phone. 15 missed calls. 27 texts. The silent treatment, officially over. "Ready?" Samantha asked as we got out of the car. "More than ready," I replied. We walked through the front door, and there was Jessica standing in the hallway, arms crossed again. But now her face wasn't calm or smug. It was shocked, like someone just hit pause on her carefully curated reality. "Look who I ran into," I said, helping Samantha with her coat. "You remember Samantha from the company Christmas party, right? The nurse with the Target shoes." Samantha raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. She didn't need to. The clock on the wall ticked loudly as the seconds passed. Jessica said nothing. 2 minutes. 3. Samantha wandered into the living room, looking around. "Nice place. A bit much, though. I recognize that couch restoration hardware, right? My hospital director has the same set. Says it cost more than her first car." Jessica's silence started to look less like power and more like paralysis. I moved to the kitchen and pulled out glasses. "Water or juice?" "Water, please," Samantha called. I knew Jessica could hear every word. "Oh, wow," Samantha said from the bookshelves. "These books look brand new. Do you actually read, Jessica?" Mike always loved literature. I filled the glasses calmly, then turned around. Jessica was there, rage written across her face, still silent. Samantha stepped into the kitchen doorway. "You know, I was telling Mike about the fundraiser next month. Children's Cancer Wing. We're trying to raise enough to cover one kid's treatment. Funny, your handbag collection could probably cover it. 6 minutes and 43 seconds. Jessica finally exploded. "What is she doing in our house?" The silence was broken, and just like that, everything began to shift. I handed Samantha her water, turned toward Jessica, and replied as casually as I could. "Found your voice, huh? Amazing. What 7 days of silence can do for the vocal cords." Her face went crimson. "You brought her here to our house?" I sipped my water and made deliberate eye contact. I thought I was invisible. "Isn't that the game we've been playing? Seemed like you wouldn't notice." Jessica didn't respond immediately. She just stood there, arms rigid at her sides, jaw clenched so tightly I could practically hear her teeth grinding. Samantha, cool as ever, leaned against the kitchen doorframe and said, "Maybe I should give you two a moment." "No," I said without looking away from Jessica. "You're my guest. You're welcome here." Jessica's eyes narrowed. "You know what you're doing." "Do I?" I replied. "Because for 7 days I've had no idea what I did wrong. 7 days of silence, passive aggression, and manipulation. So tell me, Jessica, what exactly have I done?" The room fell quiet again. But it wasn't the same kind of silence. This one was sharp, tense, coiled like a spring. Jessica glanced at Samantha, then back at me. She was cornered, and she knew it. The balance of power had shifted, and she didn't like it one bit. "You did this deliberately," she whispered, voice trembling with fury. "You brought her here to hurt me." Samantha raised her eyebrows slightly but said nothing. She didn't have to. Her very presence was a mirror to everything Jessica had refused to confront. I stepped closer to Jessica, lowered my voice. "Hurt you? You've been torturing me for a week straight, emotionally manipulating me for years, and you're the victim now." Jessica's face twisted. "You're a pathetic excuse for a husband. I expect an apology for this disgusting little show." And that's when I pulled out my phone. "No more guessing games," I said, unlocking it and tapping play on the recording I'd made that morning. Her voice filled the room. "He's still trying to figure out what he did wrong. It's hilarious. I'll probably make him take me to Cancun to make up for it." The blood drained from her face. "Oh, and one more thing," I said. "I moved half of our joint savings into my personal account. You know, just in case." She stumbled back a step, stunned. "You can't do that." "Already did. I also talked to a lawyer. Turns out emotional abuse and financial exploitation actually mean something in court these days." Jessica's composure cracked like thin glass. You can't divorce me. You need me." Samantha cut in, cool but firm. "From what I can see, Mike's been doing all the heavy lifting in this marriage. Financially, emotionally, probably in every other way, too." "Stay out of this, Nurse Ratched." Jessica snapped, but the fear in her voice was undeniable now. Her fallback tactics, seduction, guilt, rage, weren't working. "I accepted the Seattle promotion," I said, shifting the conversation before she could spiral further. "The one you said wasn't worth it because the raise was embarrassing. What you didn't know was that it came with stock options $200,000 worth vested last week." Her eyes widened. I could almost hear the gears grinding as she tried to calculate what this meant for her. "You're not coming with me," I added. "The house is underwater because of the refinancing you insisted on to fund your shopping sprees, the cars leased in my name, and the prenup you glossed over. It has an abandonment and psychological abuse clause." Jessica's voice dropped to a whisper. You can't prove that." That was Dave's cue. The front door creaked open. Dave walked in calm and confident, holding a thumb drive. "Actually, he said we can." Jessica turned eyes wide in disbelief. "What the hell is he doing here?" "I've been staying in the guest house all week," Dave said, holding up his phone. "Mike gave me permission. Heard everything. Got it all documented. Screenshots, spending records, text messages, emotional abuse, financial waste. It's all here. You were spying on me?" I shook my head. "It's not spying when you're shouting about manipulating me into a $5,000 vacation." Jessica's expression changed. The fury dropped. The panic took over. Her hands trembled slightly as she stepped toward me, voice soft now, like sugar dissolving in warm water. "Mike, baby. Please, we can fix this. I'll get a job. I'll go to therapy. I love you." I just looked at her. No Jessica. You loved the lifestyle, the comfort, the perks. You never loved me. That's not true, she whimpered. I was just upset last weekend when your parents were here. You ignored everyone. You were on your phone the whole time I laughed. I actually laughed. I checked my emails for 20 minutes, during a server crash, and you decided the appropriate response was a full week of psychological warfare. Jessica slumped into a chair. Her entire face collapsed in on itself. She looked lost now. Desperate. Please, she whispered. Don't do this. I'll change. I swear. I'll stop spending. I'll contribute. Just give me a chance. It's too late, I said, and I meant it. You should pack what you need. You can stay with Tiffany while the lawyers sort it out. She gasped. But I have nowhere to go. Tiffany's place is tiny. I can't live like that, Samantha murmured from the doorway. Should have thought of that before treating your husband like a walking credit card. Jessica tried one last move. She stood up, shoulders back, hips tilted, slipping into that walk she used when she wanted to get her way. Baby, no one knows how to make you feel like I do. Remember, I stepped back. Actually, Samantha and I had a little chat about that. Turns out the stuff you were doing not exactly genuine. Jessica froze, face falling like a curtain being ripped down. Consider this your 1-hour warning, I said. Pack essentials only. Dave will supervise so you don't accidentally take anything you shouldn't. The joint credit cards are already canceled. She didn't move, didn't speak. Just stood there blinking like her world had finally stopped spinning. The next few weeks were chaos, but a different kind, a liberating one. Jessica moved in with Tiffany, lasted 10 days before she was kicked out for being insufferable. She bounced between friends' apartments, couch to couch, each stay shorter than the last. Turns out, when you remove the financial support and social media polish, she wasn't all that easy to live with. I filed for divorce using all the documentation Dave had collected. The lawyer was impressed. Most people don't come this prepared, she said. This should go very smoothly. Jessica, on the other hand, went through 3 lawyers. Each one eventually gave her the same bad news. The prenup was airtight. Her spending was documented. Her silence was recorded. And her emotional abuse was undeniable. She got less than 10% of what she demanded. The Seattle job saved me. I sold the house at a loss, but didn't care. Donated most of the furniture she'd insisted on buying. Took only what I could fit in the Honda, and started over. For the first time in years, I felt free. Samantha and I kept in touch. She never pushed, never rushed. She offered support, but made it clear I needed to rediscover who I was before jumping into anything new. She was right. I focused on healing, on growth, on building something real, and Jessica, well, she wasn't done with me yet. But her power, it was gone. Jessica's messages started out furious. You'll regret this. Then came the guilt trips. I'm practically homeless because of you. And finally the desperation. Please, I miss you. I've changed. Give me another chance. I didn't respond to most of them. What was there to say? The woman I once bent over backward to please had shown me who she truly was. No amount of tearful texts could rewrite that truth. Meanwhile, I was starting to piece my life back together. Seattle felt like a breath of fresh air. The job was challenging and rewarding, and for the first time in years, I woke up without dread in my chest. I threw myself into the work. My team respected me, my boss trusted me, and that promotion. It wasn't just a career move, it was a lifeline. I furnished my new place with intention. Nothing extravagant, just clean, simple, comfortable. No $600 loungewear sets or designer vases. No pressure to impress anyone. I started cooking again, reading again, sleeping through the night without grinding my teeth. And I went to therapy. I wanted to understand how I'd let myself be chipped away for so long, how someone like Jessica had slipped past my defenses and sunk her claws in so deep. The answer was complicated. Part childhood conditioning, part optimism, part fear of being alone. But mostly, it was that slow erosion of self-worth that happens when you're constantly made to feel like you're never enough. 6 months passed. During that time, I joined a hiking group, started playing guitar again, even took a woodworking class. Each week, I felt a little more like the guy I used to be, the one who smiled for real, not for show. Samantha stayed in touch. At first, it was occasional messages, photos from her hospital shifts, jokes we used to tell each other in college. Then it was regular calls, video chats, weekend visits. Eventually, those visits started feeling less like reunions and more like beginnings. She took a job at Seattle Children's Hospital, said it was just a great opportunity. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't a coincidence. We took it slow, carefully. We talked about boundaries, fears, the importance of communication and respect. We built something honest. No games, no manipulation, just two people who genuinely liked being in each other's company. One Friday night, we sat on my tiny balcony sipping tea wrapped in blankets. She looked at me and said, "You know what I like most about this?" I raised an eyebrow. "What I can breathe here. It feels real. Like there's no pretending." That stuck with me. And Jessica. She eventually stopped calling, though not before one last attempt. It was about 8 months after I moved. I didn't recognize the number, but something told me to answer. "Mike." Her voice was shaky. "I need help." She explained she was being kicked out of her latest shared apartment. Couldn't afford a new place on her salary. Her friends had started distancing themselves. The Instagram posts with designer bags, all borrowed or rented. Her carefully curated life was crumbling. "I just need some help with a deposit," she said. "Just until I can get back on my feet. For old time's sake." I paused. Let the silence hang, not out of cruelty, but to really think. Then I said calmly, "I'm sorry you're struggling, Jessica, but your housing situation isn't my responsibility." She was quiet for a long time. Then came a whisper I hadn't expected. "I really messed up, didn't I?" "Yes," I said. "You did." That was the last time I heard her voice. After we hung up, Samantha came out onto the balcony and sat next to me. "Who was that?" I didn't lie. "Jessica." She didn't ask questions, just took my hand and gave it a quiet squeeze. I felt the warmth of it solid and steady. It grounded me. Sometimes people think revenge means blowing up someone's life. But the real revenge, the kind that actually lasts, is walking away. Thriving. Living well while they sit in the wreckage they built for themselves. Jessica took 7 days of silence to try and break me. It took 7 minutes with Samantha to find the strength to break free. We're not married, not rushing into anything, but we're happy. We talk. We laugh. We disagree and work through it like adults. She doesn't need me to buy her silence. I don't need to beg for affection. Last week she moved in. We're building something real, together. And I've never felt more seen in my life.